to our first My Calling morning. As I mentioned in the announcements, it has been a challenge to have a schedule and try and stick to a schedule because we have hoped to have Edith Gage with us on 2 different Sundays now, and as bad as our winter has been, it has been much worse in Eureka, South Dakota, and she sent me pictures, texted me pictures on Friday to prove that it wasn't that she just was getting cold feet about coming.
They got that snow bomb.
Right, they got bombed, and she told me that she was going to come today. I'll say more about that in just a second. She was going to come today, be here today. They were going to come on Friday. She had a woman lined up to teach her Sunday school class, and when she talked with the woman to tell her that she wasn't coming here so the woman wouldn't have to teach, this woman who lives out in the country said she had heard that the snowplow might be by in 3 days. So they are really fighting it out there, and I'm sure, as you know, the next concern is what flooding will there be. Well, I want to say a couple things about Bob Ruscher. Some of you only know him as one of the pretty faces in the back row of the choir.
I should have put on my hat, then I'd have felt more comfortable. You've all seen me bald, that's right.
In the back row of our choir, we have Bob, Diana, Dwayne, so Bob sings, I don't know what he sings, but he sits on Dwayne's right, so he's not singing the same as Dan and Diana and me. And Bob is a team player because he was originally scheduled for this Sunday, and then I asked if I could bump him to another Sunday, and he said sure, and then I called him Friday, I think it was Friday or was it Thursday, and said, can you work this Sunday instead? Yeah, that'll be fine.
No fighting. He's so shy, you know.
Well, we'll find out. Anyway, Bob has been in our home, I don't know how many times, at least a dozen. Yeah. Because he's somebody that we know we can count on, and he'll tell you more about that, starting right now, Robert.
Hi, my name's Bob Ruscher. Most of you know me. Sing in the choir. Let's start with, I just put out, some photo albums just because it gives you something to look at instead of just staring at me trying to describe my life, which isn't that interesting. Maybe you'll think it is, I don't know. But I was born on March 29th of 1958, son of Charles and Donna Ruscher, and I grew up right over on Flanders Street, over just on the other end of the block from the Brindlesons, where they live now. And so, to start, I was baptized and raised Lutheran, and attended Faith Lutheran Church over in St. Paul, Frogtown, I guess you would call it. That church is still standing. I drove by it not that long ago and took pictures, and the Faith Lutheran sign is still up there. There's a different Lutheran pastor that's running that church. But I went to church and Sunday school all through my childhood, which I think is really important for youngsters to get that grounding, because a lot of people, if they're not raised, sometimes they have a hard time finding their way to faith. Anyway, so I lived on Flanders here, and I ended up going to John Glenn. Wait a minute. I went to, what's this school right over here? Gladstone Elementary. Now, there was, when I went there, some of our congregation, like Jerry Rivard and Martin McKinnon, I believe, both were going to elementary school here at Cross.
Yep.
They had a school, and then when they got to around 4th grade, they were moved over to Gladstone. So I've known Martin McKinnon and Jerry Rivard and others since childhood. Well, I probably ran across you in the hall.
Well, you probably ran into my sibling.
Oh, that's right. Here, sorry. Yeah.
Roger.
Your older sister. Anyways, after that, I went on to John Glenn Junior High, which we're supporting right now. And that was a trialsome time in my life. I didn't do well in junior high. I don't know what it was. I was surrounded by lots of rebels, and junior high is a tough school age to be in, you know. You don't want to follow rules. And so anyways, I was while I was going to church, I was confirmed by Pastor Grant. He's a name from the past, but he married my parents, and then therefore that's why they brought me to church at Faith Lutheran, and so I went there through confirmation, and then I suppose after confirmation, like a lot of people, I kind of stopped going to church. But my parents were married in the 50s, and I was born in 1958, so that's that. And so then I moved on to high school and went to North High. And for some reason, I decided I was going to buckle down in school and try to learn something and try to get grades better than D's and C's. Well, I mean, C minus is acceptable. But anyways, I didn't want D's anymore. So anyways, I excelled in classes like wood shop, metal shops, small engines, anything mechanical. And so, electrical shop, and then when I was about, 16, 17, I was working at Big Wheel Auto Store and pumping gas in their Shopper City, if any of you remember that. The gas station on the corner of the parking lot. That was my place. That was my second job there. And gas was cheap. There was gas wars, and then you were lined up for blocks. And so when I was getting close to graduation, my guidance counselor sat me aside and he said, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "I'm going to sell mufflers at Big Wheel Auto." and hang exhaust pipes from the ceiling up in the attic, which is where we kept them all. And I thought there was no better job on earth than to do that. Being around auto parts and talking cars with guys. But he wouldn't have anything to do with that. So he said that I should learn a trade, because college wasn't in our finances. And I ended up going to 916 Voltech, and I had pretty much the two choices that they gave me were heating and air conditioning, which it turns out is a higher paying job than appliance repair. I chose, just not knowing what I wanted, I chose appliance repair. It sounded interesting. And then I later found out that appliance repairmen work 9 to 5, or in my case, 8 to 4:30 or 5. So kind of banker's hours, no weekends. Heating and air guys they're out in your house at 2 in the morning, fixing your broken
Every
furnace.
holiday.
And, that's why they make the jing.
Yeah.
'Cause they're coming out in the middle of the night on the weekend, fixing stuff. But I chose appliance repair, and, went to school. And then, in '79, I got a job at Steve's Appliance. I don't know if any of you know of it. It's up on Highway 10 Mounds View, just before Highway 65. He's still there. The owner, who was elderly when I started there, is still alive and kicking, and he comes in there to socialize with customers and clients. He's not really selling or anything anymore, but I started out there, worked there for a short time, and then one of my friends from Votech, he called me up one day, and he said he was working down at Bloomington Appliance, and they had a sister store called Lakeville Appliance, and he said if I went down there and applied, he could pretty well be sure I'd get a job because I had some experience. I was graduated from Votech, and so I went down there and ended up working there for 4 years, but that was pushing 50 miles one way to work, which in the winters was obscene. And the traffic 40 years ago was not like it is now, and even then it was troublesome. Then I got married, and I got married to a girl named Barb Fontaine, and was married at St. Pius up in White Bear Lake. And we had a daughter named Jessica, who now is 36 years old. And then I landed a job at Northland Appliance. The guy that got me the job at the Bloomington Lakeville store, he had quit because he had a knee injury and was no longer able to do this line of work because it requires tons of kneeling and crawling around and hauling appliances, and didn't work for him anymore. So he was back up in the White Bear area, and he found a want ad for Northland Appliance in White Bear Lake that was looking for a tech. So I went up there. I met my boss, Dave. He said, well, let's have you come in on a Saturday. We do shop work on Saturdays. Let's have you come in and work together and just have lunch and get to know each other a little bit. And I'll let you know what I think. So I went there. I met my future co-workers, my boss, and we fiddled around with microwaves on the workbenches in the shop for a couple hours, and basically visited, got to know each other. And after a couple hours there, he offered me a job to work up in White Bear, which is great because it was, 20 minutes from home instead of an hour and a half. And he even offered me a raise to come. So, it was a really tough thing to do, but I had to go down to work on Monday and tell my former employee that I was leaving. And it was cold and chilly around there for the next couple of weeks. But I got through it. I started my new job at Northland Appliance in 1983, spring of '83. I had been married, and then I got divorced, which was sad, but that happens. We had a nice daughter named Jessie, of course, and to this day, her mother and me are good friends. We don't communicate a lot because she's remarried and has her own life, but we overcame the divorce and became friends, and our daughter mattered a lot to us, so we made it work between us as friends. Then in 1986, after being divorced in 85, I met Deborah Roy, which you folks might have met once. Debbie came to church with me a handful of times over the last 19, 20 years. And church wasn't for her, and I couldn't force the issue. So she's been my spouse for 32 years, which is quite a long time. We have 4 kids between us. The 2 youngest are 36, Jessie, my daughter, her son, Stephen. And then there's Jimmy, who's 42. And by the way, he's a truck driver, and he delivers for McDonald's and makes big bucks. Life is good. Now he also, because I am with a woman with 3 children, have 3 stepsons, he didn't think it was unusual. He married a woman with 3 children, and he has 1 of his own. So, needless to say, their hands are full. And she's a nurse, and he drives truck, and it takes everything they make to raise these 4 kids. Anyways, so me and Debbie, later we joined a church at Tartan High School. They had a church in the auditorium. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I forget the pastor's name, but I think he started a church in Woodbury later. That church didn't last in the high school, but it was, at least we got the kids to church. And then, oh yes, also Debbie and one of her sons got immersion baptism in the Tartan swimming pool, which was very interesting, you know. And so Debbie's been baptized, even though she doesn't come to church. She's a believer and a very good person, and so I give her credit for that, taking her son and getting him baptized. Okay, so later Debbie moved to Hastings, Minnesota. The kids absolutely fell in love with the school system down there because it was more country. The kids spit tobacco in the halls, and it was not like St. Paul. And so I lived in St. Paul, and Debbie lived in Hastings, and I was talking to her on the phone in 1994 one spring, and we got to thinking, you know, this is crazy that you're living way down there and I'm living up here, and I'm running back and forth on weekends to see you, and why don't we buy a house? So we decided to do that, and we bought a house on the east side, which was my first house. And I still reside in that house. It's on Algonquin Avenue, off Stillwater Avenue, which is Hazel Park. And we've been there ever since. And of course, at that time, we did not have a church home. And lo and behold, in 1999, I was invited to Cross Lutheran Church by a lifelong friend, Martin McKinnon. At that time, Martin was in the men's chorus. So besides the regular choir, they had a men's chorus. And he invited me to come and hear them sing. And I loved it. But when then I started attending Cross Lutheran as a non-member, and I joined the church in 2000 at Bob's invitation, And frankly, I told him, I said, Bob, I would love to join your church if you could put up with a sinner like me who's living in sin, to come to your church. And he did. He opened his arms to me and let me join this church. And
join a sinner.
And then, of course, we all had, this is only my second time public speaking, and I'm nervous.
You're fine.
But, when we had to do introductions, Scott Zager did Clay's, and it was great, and I was like, oh. Now I gotta follow this. So Martin gets up, and he's very soft-spoken, says, "This is my friend Bob." So that wasn't as good of a introduction. But anyways, to lighten it, I said, I came here to hear the men's chorus, and boy was I disappointed. But I said, I love all you folks, and I want to join, and I'm happy to be here. And of course, Karen Hillman, at the time, the minute I said I wasn't impressed with the men's chorus, she goes, "You're joining the choir now!" And I've been in the choir since the day I joined the church. Now, I think being a member of the choir, I'm not a joiner. And I've been asked to join a few other things and haven't, but the biggest thing for me was joining the choir got me to come to church. If I didn't have something to get me here, I'd be off hunting fishing. And I still do that. But being a member of the choir gives me some purpose, gets me to church, and it's good for me. And I've been a member of the choir now for 19 years. It seems like I just joined and it's been 19 years. The time flies. I'm going to miss Bob so much. He's been an inspiration. He got me started here. So I really enjoy worshiping the Lord through music. And when I'm not singing or working, I am hunting or fishing. It's my passion. Fishing, I've done all my life. Hunting, I didn't start till I was 30. Well, that's a late start. Most boys are brought up by their parents or their grandparents to hunt. It's not something that I was brought up to do. My dad wasn't a hunter. He liked to fish. He took me fishing as a child. Anyways, I don't care what anyone says. Hunting and fishing brings me closer to God because it's just one-on-one, me and God. And I'm enjoying His beauty while I'm out there. I'm not just out killing things. And I always catch and release my fish. And people ask me, why do you release them delicious fish? And I say, because I cannot release deer. You know? I get a lot of time to read and just think about all of life's trials and reflect. So now I've been employed at Northland Appliance for 36 years, which is a long time.
You might get a watch.
I got a watch.
Oh, you got one.
I got a watch at my 10, and then nothing since. Well, maybe when I retire. when I retire. So I repair stoves, microwaves,
Oh, good to
refrigerators.
know.
I fix Bob and Michelle's washers and dryers and dishwashers and fridges. Everything in the home.
Very nice.
But I don't do furnaces, no heating and cooling. So anyways, I meet new people every day, which is the best part of the job. After doing it almost 40 years, I could give a hoot about fixing appliances. All I want to do is shoot the breeze with the customer and find out what their lives are like. And if I'm in a blue mood and I vent to them, they realize how great their life is. How bad mine is going. And anyways, I have got customers where I watch their children grow from little children to college and then to be married. So it'll be 40 years this spring that I've been in the same, no, I apologize. I've been doing this already for 40 years. And I hope to retire from Northland Appliance in 5 or 6 years. I'll be 61 in a couple of weeks, so 65 to 67 is what everyone wants me to work to, because that's full retirement. I don't know if my body's going to hold up, so I may have to go at 65. My knees are shot, my shoulder's shot, and Eric is my chiropractor, and he keeps me put together when things spot awry with my back and my neck and my shoulder and all this. So he's been a great to have for a chiropractor. And so after having 40 years in, like I say, I'm looking forward to retiring in 5 years or less, and I know that 5 years is going to go fast. I just hope my body holds up so that I can, be able to do the things I like to do after I retire. I don't want to end up where I can't go hunting and fishing because my knees are shot and my shoulder's shot, and it's scary. Anyway, I'm grateful to be a Cross member, and thank you for all your love. And like I said before, Pastor Bob, Pastor Amy, and all of you have been a real blessing to me. And worshiping the Lord with you folks has given me fulfillment in life, something that everyone strives for. And it helps me to get through the struggles of day-to-day life. And on a side note, this is about how God works in my life. So I'll tell you that I quit drinking 19 years ago, and I didn't go to AA, but I got rid of all my friends who drank, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and God's kept me off beer for almost 20 years. And the one thing that has been now I'm getting choked up because I'm talking about my son. I have a stepson named Stephen who's 36, and he's at our house laying on the living room floor on a mattress because he drank himself into paralyzation. Mm-hmm. He's got sclerosis of the liver. He has no function in his hands or his feet. He's only 36 years old. And it's really hard. My mother-in-law is dying of cancer. I didn't want to turn this into a pity party, but you got to know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law is dying of cancer. My mom's in memory care, and she calls me 30 times a day and on my work phone, and it gets very irritating and frustrating. But I still go see her every other day and get her snacks, and we don't have conversations because my mom can't hear. She can't see, so she recognizes me and by my voice, and all she needs from me is 5 minutes of my time and some soda pop and ice cream cones, and she's good. She goes, okay, you can go now. She doesn't need to visit. Well, because it's hard for her. She can't hear, she can't see. Conversations are me screaming at her.
Where is she?
She's at Homestead where Bob's dad was, on 3rd floor. And Amy does once a month or something, church service there. Anyways, so right now we're dealing with my 2 elderly parents and then my stepson, who was determined to come home and stay with us, even though he can't do anything for himself. He can't bathroom himself, he can't feed himself. We have to dump his pills into his mouth with a shot glass because it just is horrible, and I don't know what the future holds with that. But I wanted to have him put into a home right from the hospital to, what do you call it, where you go to...
Hospice?
Not hospice.
Transitional care.
Transitional care. I wanted that. He didn't want it. His mother, out of sheer guilt, decided, okay, we'll take him home and we will do the best we can. So she's taking care of him 24 hours a day. And I had to pull her away. She spent 5 months this summer and fall down with her dying mother and helping her sister care for her. And I had to call her up in January and tell her, you have to come home, your son looks sick. She came home, we got the doctor's appointments, got him in there, and found out he had sclerosis of the liver and paralysis in his hands and feet due to it. Now, it's not like this kid drank all his life. He drank 4 or 5 years, but he hit it well. And I asked him, after all this happened, I said, what possessed you to drink so much to get yourself in this condition? He goes, well, I've been having trouble with my hands and my feet for a while, and I've been using alcohol to medicate, to self-medicate. He didn't want to go to the doctor. Anyways, that's where he ended up. He's on our living room floor watching TV, and I can see that he's not getting better because he's not getting physical therapy. When he was in the hospital, he did 5 hours physical therapy a day, and he went to bed tired in the afternoon, but he was making improvements. But the hospital sent him home after 3 weeks and basically dumped him in our lap, and I've seen almost no improvement in the last 2 weeks because he's not doing anything. He needs professionals, a staff to push him, to get him back to trying to get better. Right now, he's just biding his time and he thinks his mother's going to take care of him the rest of his life, but Debbie's ill with lupus, so she shouldn't even be put under this burden or strain. And but I have very little say because it's my stepson, not my blood son. So we're just going day by day with that, and when Debbie finds out she's not able to do it anymore, we'll take steps to get him in a place that has professionals to care for him. For all I know, he could be paralyzed for life. You know. Anyways, I didn't want to spill that all on you. I wanted to tell you how cheerful everything was, but it's just been the last couple of weeks that this has come up, and it's turned our life upside down. And without this church, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably start drinking again. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, people have already told me, you need a beer. You need a beer. And, I'd love one, but I know what road that could
Ain't that great?
it could lead to. So, anyways, that's all I got. Thank you for your time. And I just wanted you to kind of peruse the photo albums to see what I've been up to. I noticed almost everyone has all their photographs on a telephone.
Oh.
So when you want to show pictures, you're like this
Oh, yeah.
for 10 minutes before you can find the picture you're looking for. So my goal the last decade has been to take a handful of pictures every year, get them in the album, date them, and so we got some pictures of what went on that year. And nothing, it was pretty boring. I mean, it was just me hunting and fish. No, that's not the hunting one. That's just the fish. There's some fishing ones that snuck in there because it is part of my life. And my grandchildren and some relatives were in there, as you would see. So I hope you enjoyed. Question? Yes, question.
I was just going to say, the United Sisters, thank you for taking care of our appliances.
Oh,
Oh.
really?
Yeah.
I am so-
Problem we call out.
I'm so glad you got a new refrigerator. That other one was pretty beat up.
Well, I have to say, the Simon Price household, thanks to your
Yes.
taking care of our appliances.
Oh, speaking
So
of that.
much so, wait a minute, let me get this in. Whenever we have people to the house and we include Bob, he takes them on a tour of the house, because I'm usually in the kitchen fixing stuff. He knows the house better than I do.
Also, I like to add that Michelle is really, really handy with working on appliances. Bob was away and coming home, scheduled to come home that morning, and what I think it was a Saturday or
I don't know what
something.
story
But I went over there, and the dryer had to be completely tore down and repaired, and there was dust everywhere. So we just took the whole dryer apart and laid it all out in pieces, and Michelle vacuumed and cleaned everything and then had it all ready for me to put back together, so she was
I bet you didn't know I had it in me.
she was my helper the whole time, and so I appreciate that.
Sylvia had a comment, or a
Yes, go
question,
ahead.
Sylvia.
Bob, most of the appliances that are made these days are kind of use them, throw them away when they go bad.
Exactly.
Is that affecting your business?
I still get the service calls to go condemn. So
Yeah.
that's, it's a minimum call. I don't make a lot of money, and frankly, I could tell them over the phone, but I'm not in the office to answer the calls. I'm on the road in the truck. So, we do take service calls, and even if we think it's something that's probably junk, my secretary will send me out there to have a talk with them, and I end up sending them to a dealer to buy. And giving them estimates, but the modern electronic appliance, they're so complicated, and all this electronic stuff that you can easily spend $400 in parts alone, plus a couple $100 labor. Well, that's half the price of most appliances, or a little more. So, no, I condemn a lot of stuff. The old stuff, though, we fix that every chance we get, because if we can get parts, we fix it, and everyone knows old school is good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we all like the washing machines that fill with water and have a tall agitator.
Yeah.
The new ones, they have the little agitator like this. They wash a handful of clothes. Otherwise, if you load them up, like a lot of people who aren't used to them do, the clothes on top are dry and they just go like this. And they don't wash.
Yeah, to the deep water wash.
Bulky setting.
Yeah, that's.
Bulky setting will give you the most water, which is 1/3 of a
They do an
tub.
extra rinse.
Extra rinse. Extra rinse.
Yeah, we sell appliances too.
Sylvia,
Well, Bob, I'm thankful to say that my appliances that you fixed are still all working.
Good.
But in looking through the albums, a lot of fish, but there's no size on them. Did you hold it camera
Oh, yes,
close
there's
to
a
them?
professional fisherman always, go like this.
Yeah.
But, to let you know, 3 years, this will be my 4th year, but 3 years in a row, my middle son and I have went to Big Marine on June 28th, we make it a date, and I have caught a 4 to 5 pound bass on each trip. Now, in my game, all I need is one big fish, and I'm done. I don't have to fish the rest of the day. Because most of the time you go out there and you catch a few little ones, and you go, well, a bad day of fishing is better than a good day of work.
Right.
But when you can go out there determined to catch one big fish, my son will cast 50 times and catch a dozen small ones, and I won't even cast because I know where I'm going to get one. And I will go to that spot, and while he's catching little ones all around me, I wait and I maneuver the boat, and when it's just where I want it, bloop, and if I get nothing, okay, that he's 3 feet over, bloop, and then hook that big fish, and the day is made.
And no GPS to do that?
No, I have a depth finder from 1980.
Oh, depth is
all
very
it,
important.
all it does is tell you depth, no fish. But I always kid, because of my saving my photo albums, that when I die, I want nothing but pictures of me with fish and deer up there as a remembrance. Yeah. And, you know, because that's what I'm into. It's what makes me happy. It's what makes me happy. So, that's what I do.
Well, I just have a question for you, it's very important. On my stove, there was this drip in between the glass panels that
Oh.
drove me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I got you. I
So
know
I
exactly.
took it upon myself to
Take the door apart.
Yeah, and I ruined the whole frame there.
Okay. Did it break?
And it's all bent and I got chips in my floor and I didn't.
Oh, you dropped the door?
I couldn't get it off, so I had the glass and, anyway, are you free after this?
Probably not, but I will,
I gotta order it first. I have the model number in my purse.
You let me
And I
know.
didn't even know that.
You know
I
the-
had called you a long time ago.
Well, you
I had
know,
ordered.
I always dreamed that I was going to quit Northland Appliance and become a cross Lutheran repairman. But you know what?
Yeah, too much work.
I've been doing this 40 years. The luster's off. The luster's fading. I will fix for members. And
But he probably charges time and a half just because you want to sit and
It's-
visit with him.
It's just like, at least 2 weeks ago, Lana Stepnick asked me if I would fix her ice maker, and I said, of course, but, right now I'm really busy with my sick son, so, it's not a good week for me. And then a week goes by, and on Wednesday night, I said, I'm not hiding from you, I just, I'm overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, it's on the back burner, I got your number. So, we'll fix it eventually.
Well, it's been like that for a year, so I'm not.
Well, no, we can fix it, but it depends on age, a lot of times you can't get parts.
No, it's very.
Yeah.
It was too new to damage.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
well, that's something that can be taken care of. Anyways, that's all I got.
Girls?
Oh, I have lots of questions that
Oh.
are not appliance
Okay,
related.
okay.
Levita Ray, is she your mother-in-law, or is
Who?
she, is it?
Levita
Ray?
Roy.
Levita Roy.
Levita Roy.
taking notes from your
Oh,
photo album.
yeah, Levita. Do you see the Christmas one? That was just this last Christmas. She's been diagnosed with, oh, go ahead with your question.
No, that was what I wanted to know.
She's Debbie's mom. Debbie has 7 sisters. Debbie's the second oldest, and her oldest sister, who's my age, Vicky, has been taking care of and living with her mother for 15 years, since her divorce, and they've been getting along famously until this bleeding ulcer in July that ended up, when they opened her up, it led to finding cancer. And then when they did all the tests and found that she had it in her ovaries and in her stomach and in her lungs, and she's 82, so they closed her up, sent her home, and she's been in hospice ever since. And Debbie has always been a mother hen to anyone in her family. They are the most important thing to her. So she immediately went down there and started living with her sister and her mom for August, September, November, December, January. She came home for Thanksgiving for a couple of days, and she came home. She missed Christmas at home and all that, but when I called her, anyways, back to Levita. She's been in limbo. She's only like 80 pounds. Just a skin. She was only like 4'9" full height, but it's eventual. She's going to die. She's starting to lose her swallowing ability, which is a sign of advancement. But it's hard for Debbie, it hurts Debbie to not be able to be with her mother in this time of crisis, because her son chose to treat his life like it wasn't worth anything. And he has regrets now, but it's too late. The doctors don't know if he's going to ever recover. And he's got liver damage. He's cut his life in half easily.
And his name, is that Stephen?
Stephen, he's our youngest.
How long has he been living at his house?
All his life, except for he moved out for 2 years with his, I'd say, right around 29, 30. And then he came back 4 years ago.
And how long has he been on a mat? When did he get out of the hospital?
Yeah, it'll be 2 weeks, Fridays. Yeah, so he's just sleeping on the floor. But we have supposedly social workers and health experts coming in, but he's, when he was in the hospital, he got 5 hours of PT a day. And now he's getting 30 minutes. He got 30 minutes this week of PT. He can't get better this way, and we all know it. But he's in the denial stage of wanting to leave his mother, and be raised. You know, he needs to go live with professionals and help him get back on his feet and maybe work and drive a car again.
You said Debbie is the mother. What's her birth order?
She's the second oldest of 8.
Okay, right.
She raised all of her younger brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I mean, all her younger brothers and sisters.
Are you an only child, Bob?
No, I have a sister named Barb, and she lives right over on Maryknoll, on the corner of Ross and Maryknoll.
Is that Sissy of John and Sissy?
No.
Okay, you just in your photo album.
John and Lisa?
Lisa. It just
John
said
and
Sissy on something, and I...
Oh, no. Was it 2 people? A guy and a gal?
No, I was just looking at the names kind of thing.
I don't know a sissy. Maybe I just wrote terribly. Anyway.
When we bought our dryer at Plaza, we had some issues with it, and it was still under warranty, so we didn't call Bob Ruscher. we called Plaza, and they sent somebody out on Christmas Eve morning, which we appreciated, you know. And I said, do you know Bob Ruscher? He usually fixes our stuff. And the guy said, Bob Ruscher? I'm not sure I know Bob Ruscher. Oh, yes, he said, I know Bob Ruscher. He said he was stopped at a stoplight somewhere on the east side, and an appliance repair truck pulled up next to him. And the driver of that appliance repair truck rolled down his window, held up a picture of himself and the deer he had just shot, and said, look at this. I said, that's Bob Ruscher.
Right? Yeah, that was Scott.
I so appreciate our My Calling Sundays, because it is always an opportunity for me to reflect on what it means to bear a cross, and the fact that all of our crosses are so different, and yet they are alike in that they involve people who need some help. And Bob, you've shared some different dimensions of that today. We have a policy that we do not advertise, so if we want somebody to know that the Olsons run LVI, we invite them to speak in the My Calling series. You know that you can call Bob Ruscher, and there are different words that are synonymous with faithfulness, and dependable is a word that is synonymous with that describes Bob Ruscher, and we are the better for you. Thanks, Bob. So, next Sunday, for something completely different, Soren Trigestead will be sharing about his calling and what it's like to work for peanuts when your wife is the choir director. But he's got more to share than that, so we look forward, Soren, to next Sunday with you. And then the following Sunday, we are assuming that the interstate will be plowed so that Edith Gage can be with us. And then the Sunday after that, Paul Schaefer will be sharing about his calling. And then the Sunday after that, we have Jamie Lund scheduled, but we might need to have a special congregational meeting that day, unrelated to transitions and call process. And it could be a short meeting, so Jamie might be able to share about her calling. Otherwise, she's willing to be bumped into 2020. But so that's the schedule. We hope that you're able to be with us the next few Sundays. And Bob, again, thanks very much.